Hello and welcome to Relatively Ordinary. This is Carl.
This is Betsy.
Hey, Betsy.
How's it hanging?
It's hanging pretty good. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
I feel encouraged that we got some spring cleaning done today.
Yes, and we've had some good spring weather.
Mm-hmm.
A couple days of summer in there.
I know, crazy warm. I loved it.
It was too hot, too fast. I didn't sleep well, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
I appreciated those warm days. It means more are coming.
Yeah, once, the pool is open, bring it on, but
And the air conditioning is installed.
yeah, too hot, too fast.
Well, I wasn't complaining.
I know.
Yeah. So anything else new?
Well, it's been 2 weeks since we've recorded,
I
so
know. It's been busy. You've been busy. You've been gone. You know me, I was ready all the time.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Yeah, I planted a garden,
Yep.
played a baseball game,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
We watched a lot of baseball.
watched some baseball.
Lots of work commitments.
Yep, lots of work.
Mhm.
So yeah, nothing too crazy, but busy.
Yeah, and here we are.
Here we are.
And this is a good segue to my question for you
Let
because
it rip.
we're also doing our spring detox where we purge our diet of all the crap while we've been hibernating and
And
turn the corner into
not
spring.
just to the crap, but also the good stuff.
Well, the
That
crap
brings
is
us
the
joy
good
in
stuff.
life.
Yes. So no alcohol,
I can do that.
no sugar,
I can do that.
no coffee,
That's a jerk move.
no grains,
Yeah.
and no processed foods. So it's been, and we're almost done. We got a couple more days left and we're still alive. So I already know what you miss.
I am being held hostage. Please, somebody send coffee. I'm dying over here.
It's the coffee. And I know you said the second thing was dessert, or you basically just like to have some dark chocolate after
Yes.
dinner. So I know you're missing those, but what's one thing that you surprisingly don't miss that you may adopt going forward as a change or a shift,
Well,
even if you ingest it sometimes?
my problem is not so much that I do too much of any one of those things. It's just that um little accumulations of inflammatory things. Um, you know, I so like for example, we've had times when we've cut out caffeine for a short period of time
Yeah.
and it's been dreadful. This time really hasn't been that bad. Like I don't really miss
And you drink a lot of coffee.
I drink a lot of coffee.
How many cups on average do you think you
Well,
have? Like in
to be fair,
yes. Okay.
what's a
Let's
cup?
say an average between, well, a medium hot coffee that you'd find at Dunkin's or Starbucks, 12 ounces. How many 12-ounce cups? Like our mugs are probably 12 ounces. So how many of those, be honest, do you think you have
Probably
per
3.
day? And then that's just the morning.
Yeah.
And then what do you have in the afternoon?
But the coffee maker, if you look at the lines on the
I
coffee
know,
maker, that's 5 ounces.
I get that.
That's savage.
But
Like nobody drinks
okay,
that little amount of coffee.
But for our audience, I make a full pot, which says 12 cups.
Yeah.
I know it's not 12 cups, it's like 12 6-ounce cups,
Yeah.
but
I drink 7 of those little weenie cups that they put on the coffee maker.
So I fill the whole coffee pot, and when you're not home, I go to 4. I brew it to 4.
It's a little more than that.
And I don't even finish the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you could finish that whole thing in a morning.
Yeah.
That's easy for you.
And coffee brings me joy.
I'm not judging. I'm judging a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, no, there's like nothing. There's nothing that I miss like horribly. I just love coffee.
I want to know what you haven't answered my question though. What have you
I'd
given
kill
up?
a man for a coffee.
No. What have
Was
you?
that your question?
No. What would you give? What have you given up that you don't miss?
I mean, grains.
Yeah.
And it's
All grains or just, you don't really miss the slice of toast or.
Yeah, I don't miss it because to me that's just the harder part is it's hard to think about meals,
Yeah.
especially if you're, like, eating out on the go or, like, at a party or something. Like, we
Yeah.
cheated a little bit on Friday because
Oh,
we
you
were at a
cheated.
party,
I did not cheat.
and well, you had tater tots, and those
Okay.
were breaded
Okay.
and
No,
fried,
they
so
were not
they're
breaded. No.
fried, though, I mean,
Yeah. Well, we
so
don't know what type of oil.
yeah. So, like, I mean,
It's a vegetable.
yeah, I it's grains are
Yes.
kinda in everything,
Yeah.
but I don't really need them in my diet. It's more just that, like, I don't have the, like, time, patience, creativity
Mhm.
to
Well, for the record,
constantly cook
I took
without grains.
I took care of it. I did all the shopping and meal prep so that you could only bitch about the coffee.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And then, I mean, I can't wait to have a delicious beer, but I'm not like not a huge deal.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say mine is oh god, I had something and then I forgot about. Oh, processed foods.
Yeah.
I don't really again, it's convenience. So if I'm not prepared and I don't have good snacks, because I always need some sort of afternoon snack. If I don't have a good afternoon snack, I'll just grab it, whatever I find in the pantry. And having
Mm,
teenagers, they like to have some grab and go things. And, I don't really need a granola bar, but if that's what's
yeah.
there, but I don't miss it since I've prepared. So I'm going to do my best to keep that at bay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I eat a lot of processed food anyway. It just tends to be
No,
more like, convenience factor of
totally.
eating something on the go. And it also sort of depends on what your definition of processed food is because, you know, Cholula could be considered processed food.
Highly processed.
Yeah.
Highly processed. We won't count Cholula, okay?
Yeah.
It's made of whole ingredients, so
Yeah.
if you can't pronounce the ingredients list
And
and you don't really know what it
xanthan
is,
gum, whatever that is.
well, that's actually naturally occurring and okay to ingest. It's some of the chemical compounds that aren't actually a vitamin or mineral our body needs. And that's beyond my scientific understanding, but you can look these things up too.
Sure.
But like Oreos, we don't really usually Oreos,
No.
but if someone left Oreos in my pantry, I'd totally devour them normally.
Yeah. See, I don't really go that way, but
Oreos are so
once you break the seal, I may just eat them all.
good.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I could definitely live without Oreos.
Well,
I don't need to eat
I
really
think I'm
Oreos.
gonna try this spring with my spring. I will buy the Girl Scout cookies. I'll support them. I just won't eat them. I need to pawn them off at
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. You just give you some money.
Yeah. Here, don't ask me again, please.
Yeah.
All right. So,
All right. Well, I got a good topic for today.
ooh,
We
okay.
are going to have the talk.
The talk.
The talk.
Okay. Well, I've already had sex before and I know how to do it safely.
Yep, but that's
Remember, we have
not
children.
that's not
It's not the birds and the bees
it's not
talk.
the birds and the bees for you.
Oh.
It's for America. So
Wow.
it seems like in our country, we tend to swing back and forth between extremes. You
Mhm.
have a
Oh, yeah.
really, I think, a probably explicit oversaturation of sexual content in some
Mhm.
contexts,
Mhm.
and then repression in other
Mhm.
contexts. And
Mhm.
neither of them seems healthy.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, just let's start with that. Like, why are Americans so bad at talking about sex?
Well, I think we know there's some element of taboo, especially when you think about, how it's almost I feel like it's a vulnerable feeling to talk about it because you're, on certain, with an intimate partner, it's different, but I just think in general, people might feel a little vulnerable about it because of how it makes you feel or maybe what you exposed to, what you've been told growing up, your religious beliefs, sort of what's been socially ingrained. And so it doesn't feel comfortable or even socially appropriate. But I would definitely say, on certain more secretive levels, we've got a lot of sexual messages coming across, mean inherited inherent misogyny and just, how we sell products to young women and how they should dress and look and, how, there's a huge um economy for porn and that type of sexual content. I mean, I'm naive to it to a certain extent. You always laugh at me when I'm like, "Oh, that's a thing." And people, I think people repress some of that, but as we've learned and I've explored who's the woman I really like who wrote that book? I listened to her
Um,
podcast too.
Esther Perel.
Esther Perel. Esther. I think that's how she pronounces it. Her, I think her and some others in that space have really allowed people to understand their own sexual identities and sexual health, and some of those conversations have felt good. And I think as a parent we've seen some good changes from, our youth, and then especially the youth of our parents and grandparents about teaching about sexuality and, you know, taking care of yourself, understanding your own sexuality, what intimacy is like, what type of intimacy is healthy and what feels good to you. And I think that's where you start. And then obviously safe sex and supporting other people's choices and stuff like that. But then, I can see a whole other side of things where some people are not comfortable with that, or maybe it's just not part of their upbringing or it's repressed. And I think that can have a negative impact. But, maybe that's what they're comfortable with, and that's okay. So, yeah, there's like so many different facets to it. I think the pendulum has definitely swung, especially as now we're looking at, repealing Roe versus Wade. And, now we're seeing some restrictions on the, the, what's it called? What's the name of the medication for
The pill.
the pill?
Yeah.
Yes. But not the birth control pill, the morning after pill.
Damn.
But I forget the name of the specific medication. And, just a lot of choice around that being
So do you think
restricted.
you said the pendulum swung, but I mean, I don't think the pendulum has swung at all. I just think that the people in political power are making decisions based on a very narrow worldview that most of the country doesn't agree with. So I don't know that I would say the pendulum has swung as much as, there's just like we can't have honest conversations, we can't have open conversations, and then we just like yo-yo back and forth between extremes without landing on
Yes.
something that is appropriate for
Well, I think
the bulk
that
of people.
whether you call it yo-yo or whatever, I think, we've probably had a lot of split opinions on the topic, but there's been a big shift in policy, right? So, we did have a lot of rights and states were providing services, and we had legislation in place to protect choice, and now it's shifting the other way. And I
Do you think that's about sex?
well, it's certainly related to it. Uh, when you say sex, are we talking about, the male versus female sex? Or are we talking about intercourse?
Well, if I was to demonstrate to you, it looks something like this.
Oh, great. Okay. I think I
Yes.
can interpret
Yeah.
that. Thank you. That was a nice graphic
Yeah.
representation. For those who are only listening, I will not share what he did, but
It
you
was
can
a
guess.
demonstration of penetration using my hands.
uh, and so then, okay, now that I understand what you're talking about with sex, what was your question?
Well, I guess I'm being, I'm being cheeky here, but like
Yeah, be
I'm asking,
cheeky.
is you took it to the, the politics and
Mm-hmm.
policy around abortion and access to abortion. Is that actually related to sex, or is it something
Well,
else?
I definitely think it is, because what we're saying here is, there are restrictions for and specifically women to be able to control their destiny with family
So
planning.
you're talking about sexual and reproductive freedom.
Yes, sexual and reproductive freedom. And so when we think about taking away some of those access, access to healthcare opportunities, and the ability to family plan, then we're restricting a woman's choice to sexual freedom. And so, I could fly off the rails, and I've definitely heard a lot of people do this, and that it's another way to repress women. And we've talked a little bit about this uh gosh, I'm having word finding issues like I usually do, but where with through the patriarchy, and men feeling threatened by women having being well educated and independent, that um you know it fine, let's restrict them in their opportunity to sleep around and choose whatever partner they want, and not actually settle down and marry first and then have children, and forego any um, restrictions for their risk factors for having children before they're ready. And I think that that's upsetting and very restrictive. And um that's just my personal opinion, and certainly does relate to sex, because it's trying to reduce my sexual freedom. And I think that if it was men in this situation, like you were, someone who needed to carry the child and raise it and have your life altered, it would probably not be such a big thing. You'd be like, here's your Viagra and here's your birth control. Go sleep around all you want.
So it reminds me of on South Park when Satan was having Trump's butt baby.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Um, so, which is very insightful, and
The butt
will
babies.
yes, it will likely last the test of time as far as insightful political discourse of our era. Um,
Oh my gosh, it's so wrong. Like it just makes my skin crawl, but it's so freaking funny.
it is.
Oh my god. And I like picture, wasn't there like an image of his
Yes,
anus
yes,
baby?
yes, yes. Yeah, but Fox News broke it down for us.
Yes.
Well, shifting gears from butt
Satan's butt
babies.
baby.
Uh, so you mentioned porn,
Mhm.
and I think um, maybe as a consequence of our national inability to talk about sex,
Mhm.
porn is a primary source for young people to learn about sex.
Oh yeah.
And what do you think? What kind of effect do you think that has on young people?
And I don't think there's a lot of I'm again, I don't know enough, but I don't think there's a lot of restriction for access.
So this is interesting. I One thing that did happen this, I think it was this year,
Mhm.
is some states, and I think Virginia was in the lead on this,
Mhm.
started to put in restrictions around basically like that compel porn sites to verify the age of their users.
Oh,
And
interesting. How do they do that?
well, you can do it. I mean, you can do it pretty easily if you write the laws in place. Like,
No, but like, how do you restrict the age? How do you know who the
well,
user is on the other
this
end?
is so. This has been a debate for a long time
Mhm.
in the internet,
Mhm.
and the internet side, like the internet service providers, and I'm talking about ISP. I'm talking about like websites and
Mhm.
companies like Google and Meta and all that, have argued against having age verification on websites
Mhm.
because,
The like, "Yes, I'm 18, I can enter" thing?
well, it's that, but you can't just like, you have to actually verify. You can't just like, say, check the button, right? Because a 14-year-old can is
Yeah.
not dumb enough to be like,
Oh,
yeah,
bummer.
"Oh, yeah, no." Like, I don't think there's a lot of people that click no, right?
Yes.
Um, but you can't act like, how do you actually do it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
how do you
you have to,
verify?
like, upload your license or, like, have some
Oh.
way of verifying. So, it the
Oh,
internet
interesting.
the companies have, successfully staved off this type of functionality for a long time
Mhm.
because, and they can say like, by clicking this link, you attest that you're 18, and
Yeah.
if you're not, then you could be prosecuted, blah blah blah. But again, like, they're
Prosecuting
not going to
14-year-olds.
chase down
No.
14-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
And really, it should be. It's not the kids, it's not like the underage people, it's not the
Mhm.
users that should be prosecuted. It's the providers of
Mhm.
what should be age gated, not having appropriate age gates, which, we can talk to you later, Meta.
Yeah.
But, anyway, they're regardless of how effective it is and how they actually do it, the
Mhm.
state of Virginia has
Oh,
put that in place. So now those sites will apparently, um, check your age or ask you to
great.
verify your age.
I mean, this
And
day
I
and
don't know how they
age,
do it.
you would hope that there's technology to this with all the other things we can do in this world. It
Yeah.
seems appropriate
But
and
to
important.
your point anyway,
Yeah.
it's still there, right?
Yes.
And it's still a smart kid, a motivated kid, and there's not a
Yes.
lot more motivating to, like,
Yes.
an adolescent boy than finding
Mhm.
pictures of boobies online, so they'll find them.
Yeah. So, and now I forget your question again.
Well, we're talking about the impact of
Oh, yes.
young people learning about sex through
Yeah,
porn.
I mean, it's worrisome. I don't really know the long-term outcomes except, by association with, or hearing certain things. I've heard stories and how it might impact intimate relationships down the line. And I would I would say that I'm impressed with our public school system because they take the reins and trying to teach some basics, but a lot of it falls on parents, and I don't know how comfortable parents are talking about it. I know I was very appreciative that I learned about some professionals who that's their focus. There's some, we had like the comic books, how you learn about yourself and like when's it age appropriate and, what happens when you start to go through puberty and then talks about sexuality. But I think it's really important for parents to talk to their children about what porn is and, being explicit about, the downsides for a growing brain and how it's not reality, but you know what? It's not it's it's the same thing that's always existed, right? But instead of it being like a Playboy under the mattress
Yeah,
or
I disagree.
scintillating HBO, well, and this is where I just don't know enough, but I feel like there's been access to something that was not really based in reality for how most intimate relationships play out in the long run. I would say for the average population, like the people who, have a long-term partner or are with someone for years, whether they get married or not, or have, some relationships, unless you're like, someone who just dates around and only, like supermodels and, you're in a different sphere and probably a small percentage of the world. But
Yeah, that was the sphere I was into before I met you.
yeah, just, all
You were
all
the first non-supermodel.
all the all what? Dude. Okay. But all the, it's a narrow margin who are like off having orgies and going to sex parties, right? Am I right? So if that's fair to say, most people had exposure to porn, even our generation, like since, Playboy existed, since they've been
Yeah,
creating porn.
but
But
Playboy is not porn, like like the way that we have porn today,
yeah, yeah.
like, that was a I mean,
Benign.
you could go to an art museum and see paintings of naked
Yeah.
women, right? Like, the you know, yes, I agree on the sort of airbrushed, unrealistic nature of
Mhm.
it. It was
Mhm.
creating a fantasy, it was creating this sort of, like, tantalizing desire and all of that, but, like,
Mhm.
porn is like today, the porn that's available on the internet that, again, I'm sure any 15, 16-year-old can figure out how to get around whatever age gates are in place and see this stuff.
Mhm.
It's raw, and there is like a huge spectrum of things, and
Mhm.
some of it is pretty, my opinion, gross and violent.
Mhm.
Not to yuck everyone's yum, but like,
It's raunchy.
there's some pretty raunchy stuff out there.
Mhm.
And I think that like that is different. I don't think that that was available to, our generation was maybe the bleeding edge of that stuff being like accessible
Mm.
um to everybody.
Yeah. And so that, going back to the conversation piece, being explicit about what exists and what is reality, and how our brains just need to develop in a certain way. And so if you think about, sugar, you think about smartphones, like some of the things we talked about with that dopamine hit. It's the same thing with porn and sex, and whatever way you're getting off. You're looking at something that's triggering this like ooh response in your brain, and yep, you get off whatever, but then you build this addiction, and people have porn addictions, and then it can ruin future relationships. So that's some of the things I have heard about, which can be a little scary if you have basically, especially young boys, because I think it's different for women. I'm not saying there wasn't a sexual awakening in myself as an adolescent female, but it's probably not to the same extent as a man and or a young man. And I think there's just that repeated exposure, and then you're not getting all the other elements of having a true relationship with someone, and you know, your expectations of what's going to create a level of intimacy and excitement for you might be skewed because of what you've been exposed to.
Yeah.
And things might not go well, because it's better to evolve in a partnership of mutual sexual interest than to go and be like, yeah, I saw this thing and let's try it. And you might scare some people off with that. Um, and yeah, I've just it's hard. It's I think there needs to be restrictions. I also think modeling healthy relationships is very important. And
Yeah.
so that's
Well, that kind of brings me to my next topic.
mhm.
So we have you have sort of your more clinical sexual education, which is like what you get in health class,
Yep.
and you know, you're or you're talking about like, the comic books that you read, like the, educational,
Mhm.
like this is my body type books,
Mhm.
tell you how your body works, tell you, how sex works, how reproduction works, like,
Mhm.
you know, um, why certain things might feel good, etc. And then you have porn,
Mhm.
and then you have, I think, equally misleading, but in a different way, the sort of like
Movies and
romantic
television.
fantasies that you see on TV and movies
Yeah.
and in books.
Yep. I
Um,
think books are great. I think books can be really great because there's some it can only be so vivid. And I think especially young adult to adult, and I don't think boys are reading this. This is where we get a skewed
yeah,
dynamic of like
I think you're
what
talking about,
what the woman
yeah,
wants and what the man
middle-aged
wants.
woman smut.
No,
Uh,
no, but I think some young adult books bring in some relationship, sexual intimacy
sure.
topics too. And you're like, nope, moving on.
Well,
Mm,
that's, sure. I won't disagree with you, but
okay.
what I'm really trying to get at is I think there's a gap, and I think it
Hmm.
goes to what you talked about is like modeling, you know, what's your model for a good, healthy relationship?
Hmm.
And I think that's the piece that we don't talk about enough. I mean, you mentioned Esther Perel, which I think is interesting because,
Mhm.
she talks about a lot of different situations, and some of them are very healthy, some of them are very unhealthy, and she's trying to help people who have, unhealthy situations. But somewhere in the middle there is like, how does a young person find out what is a good approach and a good, like, what does good
Mhm.
sex education look like beyond just like sort of state mandated, this is where this goes and this is what happens.
That's true. Well, I think that's ongoing conversation. It's not a sit down and have a birds and bees talk. I think it's about your child having enough trust. Well, we model a relationship that I think is loving, caring. It stops there. They don't
Yeah.
really see much
Well,
more
when
than
I
that.
hug you and kiss you, we get a lot of ew.
But, I think that shows that being in a lifelong caring relationship where, we can argue sometimes, but we, share a bed, we, love each other, we lock the door sometimes. Like they know we have a healthy relationship and what maybe a normal is. And well, I feel normal. It's what relatively ordinary
Yeah.
is, right?
When the door is locked, put your AirPods in for bedtime.
But but I would say it's an ongoing conversation. It's like our daughter right now who, is telling me tales and woes of middle school about a boy who likes her and she doesn't even talk to him. And then, there's a dance coming up and oh, actually he likes her, but why is he always looking at me and his friends being silly? And then it's the teenage son, like our son told us about his friend's girlfriend and they kissed for the first time. It's kind of exploring that. Like, what do you think about that? And, I think it's about them feeling comfortable talking with someone who feels safe. And then, hopefully within the context of their friends too. I mean, who I am sexually when I was a teenager is very different how I am now. So you kind of have to build this confidence and a lot of it comes with your partner. So it's knowing who is a safe partner who kind of fills your needs for someone you're attracted to, who can be friends with, that inspires you, and then you'll feel this comfort to be able to build on things. It shouldn't come from watching porn, but you may get inspired by a variety of media and information, right? I think that is what creates a healthy relationship. And I think it's just healthy relationships in general, whether it's an intimate relationship, um, or, sexually intimate or, friendships, closeness with family, things like that. That's my belief based on my upbringing, but
Yep.
maybe you have a different idea.
Well, I'm curious how you think that, because, I know you're talking about your experience as a parent,
Mhm.
but is there a more sort of social community level,
Mm.
you know, thing that can happen to encourage that type of conversation to happen? And let's be honest, like, kids don't want to learn about sex from their parents.
No, I mean, I'm not gonna be explicit, then they'll run away screaming. It's really letting them lead in what they wanna ask me, and also knowing that at the very minimum, they understand what's consensual and, making sure they're safe. But I would say on a social community level, it's it's probably stuff that is bigger than that even, where it's more media driven and, if depending on your age, I can't contextualize it to their age right now, but I think a lot of it is probably just in advertising and social media and things like that. Oh, some of the TV shows they watch, I think it's all still relatively PC. And then, as you get into, your 20s and 30s, it's I don't know, maybe you gravitate towards certain social dynamics and people and information kind of gets shared and I feel like you also have these 2 poles. You have, like, that friend who's kind of out there and a little crazy and explorative, and you're like, "Oh, I'll just hear those stories and know not what not to do." And
Yeah.
then the other friend or the friend of a friend who is, like, maybe not interested in relationships and is sort of a solo flyer, and you're like, "Okay, well, there's some merit in that, but, not for
Yeah.
me."
And
So
by the way, we appreciate the people on both
Oh,
ends of that
yes.
spectrum so they can the
Yes.
people who like to, ride the middle wave like us,
Totally. It
uh,
gives me some food
live
for thought.
vicariously through you.
Yes.
I do think that and I think it goes back to kind of where I started this is there is a lot more sex in like TV and
Uh-huh.
movies and stuff than there used to be.
Yeah.
And I think it started to really ramp up um probably in the 90s.
Yeah.
Um and you know, it it feels like and in some ways it's I think in some ways it's healthy. In some
Yes.
ways it's it's sex positive.
Yes.
But I think it also, again, I think there's this sort of broad coarsening of our
Mhm.
culture and sometimes like the things that like the example I always think of is the term MILF, right?
Mhm.
MILF was like that was like a porn category term.
Yeah, yeah.
That wasn't a term that like as a kid I knew what it meant.
Yeah.
Now everyone knows what it means and it gets
Yes.
used in just like kind of broad
Casual.
throwaway casual conversation, which is
Yes.
like, you know, it can be funny depending on the context, but it's also it's like that's a
Yes.
kind of a, you know, 25, 30 years ago, like you didn't hear about that term
Mhm.
just getting used,
Mhm.
casually.
Yeah. No, I definitely like the shift towards sex positive. I don't need to see people having sex on a street corner, but at the same rate, I think everyone, if it's consensual, sure, explore whatever you want. Like consensual and safe. Those are sort of the boundaries that I have that I think should be universal protocol. But I'm not gonna judge anyone, as long as they're over 18 and they're human, yeah yeah, like, do what you need to do. I think there are levels of
Human, human. Okay. Okay.
I think I think if you have others, I'm forgetting,
Yep.
but it seems pretty basic. Um, I I would say that I think there is a level of I mentioned it in the beginning, this, ingrained misogyny that, you know, young women get exposed to that sort of sets this precedent of like, well, to be sexy, I have to dress this way, I have to talk this way, I have to act this way. And, my man's going to expect this or that. And I I think we may be seeing that get muddled, but I feel like that's existed for a long time, and so I don't want there to be this impression that you need to perform or there's this, expectation in the bedroom where I think it's, uh, that's where people should just pause and check, like, is this for me? Is this enjoyable for me? Is this what feels good, and that I wanna bring to the table? And, when you're in that relationship, if anything, I want my kids to be able to find partners they feel comfortable with, and have conversations that enrich their, intimacy, whether it's sexual or non-sexual, because I think that's sort of the base of a healthy relationship. And, you know, I I don't, again, to each their own. Like if it's a one night stand, you're really not going to have these deep, intimate conversations, but you might have your boundaries. And so, know what your boundaries are and live within them, enjoy them. And if you're wanting to stretch those boundaries, it's probably best to do it with someone you feel comfortable with.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And again, I'm not like a sex health expert, but I'm in my mid 40s. I know a thing or
You've been
two.
around the block.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, folks, she didn't really mean that. I've not been around the block. Although, we were talking with a colleague of mine. He was saying, what was the phrase where you said like your number of kills or
Body count.
your body count?
Yeah.
Yes, and these are the things I really am interested in sort of just being aware of so that when I hear it, I don't feel like I'm in the dark. But yeah, apparently this body count thing is you go, yeah, complete stranger, like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with you. Maybe we'll get freaky deaky and I need to know your body count. If it's high, that might be a good thing. If it's low, that might be a good thing. I
Well,
don't know.
the we missed the whole Tinder thing,
Yes.
and you know, um, that changed the game
Yes.
in a lot of ways. And from the folks that I know who were into that type of dating scene, like
Mhm.
it could be on the one hand pretty cool
Mhm.
because you could pull up to, like, I was talking to a guy who was sailing up and down the East Coast, and he's like, I would, I'd pull into port, and I'd just be like, I'm so and so, and I'm here, I'm sailing up and down the East Coast,
Mhm.
and he's like, you go to New York, and it's like, I'd get 15 pings, and I'd have my choice of like
Oh my
who to hang out with
gosh.
that night, and
Wow.
but also like it's kind of a meat market, and
Yeah.
it there was a lot, people who did that for a while got burnt out on it, and it could be
I
pretty brutal. So,
it's interesting. Well, we met online for those who don't know,
yep,
but it was not on
it was
Tinder.
not
It
Tinder.
was Tinder did not exist. There weren't even really dating apps at
No, it
that
was like
point.
basically like a message board kind
Yeah.
of thing.
So AOL Messenger.
Yeah, it's
Hello.
like yeah, it's like
Would you
one
like to
step up
date?
from a personal ad and a
Yes.
crappy
I know.
newspaper.
Yeah, we were like a classified ad online. But the yeah, I don't it's so interesting. I'm so glad that was not a thing when I was single. I don't think I don't know. I don't know if I would have used it or not.
You would have used it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you would have.
but I think I may be someone who likes to get to know someone more than just
Well, it doesn't say you can't get to know, and there's also other variations of dating sites that are not
gotcha.
specifically
Yes.
oriented on
Yes.
hooking up.
Well, Tinder, but I meant Tinder specifically.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think you would have used Tinder?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I don't think I would have. Oh my
But
gosh.
I'm glad I didn't have to find out.
Yeah.
Um okay, so let's move on to
Wow. Dating's
talking
gonna be
about,
hard. I know this is not about dating, but that could be a whole nother topic.
well, I mean,
Dating for youth.
it is kind of about
It's
dating.
related,
Yeah,
but
it's all part
you
of the
know.
same spectrum. I mean,
No, we just like cut right to the chase.
I mean, we're going straight for the kill here. So, what advice would you have for other parents? And, knowing that we are certainly only like the ramping up arc of this type of thing with our kids, but like,
Yes.
we've got two teenagers. So
Yeah.
what advice would you give to other parents?
Um, I'm I'm thankful that we built enough trust and there's, a connection that they feel comfortable talking to us. I will never be like, "Oh, are you dating anyone?" Well, maybe I do that to her son a little bit.
You do that all the time. Are you kidding me?
No, 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 no. Not all the
You
time.
always
Not
pick
all the
the most
time.
awkward time to like ask these questions too. So
No, but as I've just been impressed with what they're willing to share. And so use that as, a door opening and proceed slowly because I think it's really important to have ongoing conversations because think about all the things that happen as they go to become an adult. And while you hope they have really good friends, you want that one person you can trust if you're in trouble or if you really need some solid advice to corroborate what you've heard. It's just that great. opportunity to build on things that are very personal and might feel uncomfortable to discuss. But I've been impressed with what our kids have shared. And I'm sure it's very little of the depths of what they would like to talk about, but are too embarrassed to, but it's something. And and then I think, you know, restrictions, I leave that up to our tech guy. That's you. So, if, as best you can, have some sort of security on devices to at least limit, but being transparent, like this is porn, this is what it's about. It's not meant for children. There's, it's not all bad, but there is a lot of bad. And, being honest too, that I'm sure I could, this is where I want to do a literature search. But I'm sure there's true porn addiction and there's consequences for healthy relationships afterwards. I don't know. Everyone do their own independent research. I will do some too, because now I'm curious. It's my curious brain. But I think being explicit about it is important when the time is right, but it's often earlier than you think. Probably well before they're actually thinking about dating, but it's right around puberty. Puberty happens earlier and earlier. So that's my advice for what it's worth.
Yeah. So
Do you have any additional advice?
no, I think, as you mentioned at the outset, building trust,
Mhm.
right? If you have a trusting relationship, mutually trusting relationship with your kids, they're more likely to be open with
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
I think being honest with yourself about your own
Yep.
sexuality and your own um desires and behavior around sex. Like I think anyone who's,
Well,
you
how
know,
specific do you get?
well, I think what I'm saying is like,
I like when mom dresses like a cowgirl.
um, that's weird. Especially because you're talking about mom. Um,
No, I'm quoting you. I'm quoting you.
so I say that to our kids, like, first of all, when have you dressed like a cowgirl? Second of all,
I came up with an example
okay.
that seemed benign, but
Um,
you were saying being explicit about, what your
well, no, I'm
experience
talking
has
about
been.
if you're not honest with yourself, you're
Mhm.
not going to be able to be honest with others.
Yeah.
And so you think about how many, you know, one of my favorite sort of like Grinder is the Tinder for gay men.
Oh,
The
okay.
the
I think I've heard of that.
there is a huge spike in Grinder usage every time there's a Republican National Convention happening. So wherever that city happens to be, there's like a huge spike in
Wow.
Grinder, right? So
All right. Tell me, what do you think this
and
association is? Do you think all Republicans are homosexuals?
well, I think what is what that may signal
Mhm.
is that if you are more repressed and you're not honest with yourself about
Oh.
your sexuality
Oh.
and you are going to seek out like it's the same thing with I mean even if you're straight, right? Like if it's like when I go on, business trips, I have to like get on Tinder and like hook up with someone. Like
Oh.
you're not being
You're
honest about yourself in your
you're
relationship.
you're not talking that just folks, I don't think he's being serious about himself in
I'm
that
not.
situation.
Wink wink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a
So
break.
um but yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of repression, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of people who aren't able to be honest with themselves for whatever reason about their sexuality,
Mhm.
and and then they end up living this kind of dualistic life where they may have like certain standards, and maybe it's because of how they were brought up, maybe it's
Yep.
because of some shame, some trauma in
Mhm.
the past, something like
Mhm.
that. But if you can't be honest with yourself, how can you possibly be honest with your kids?
Yes. Or for your partner, be honest for your partner, and then, within appropriate boundaries, be open with your children. Yes. So if you're repressed, you're probably not going to want to talk about sexuality at all because it feels very
Yes.
uncomfortable. That's
Yes.
what you meant. You didn't mean like, all right, let me tell you all my kinks, children.
I don't know
Sit down.
where you got that from.
Well, just in how you're talking about it. You want to be open. I was like, how much are you going to
Yeah.
share?
Yeah.
I like when mommy wears this
This
thong.
is where
Like,
this conversation always goes with this one.
Well, and
Uh,
I think it's really good to be honest with your partner. And if you fall in that category, it's probably worth talking to a psychologist or someone
yeah.
who
Or a sex
specializes it.
worker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or a sex
Yeah.
worker. What?
Um,
I don't
so
think you meant that.
what does last two questions here? We get to try to get this train wreck back on
Okay.
the rails. Um, what does a happy, healthy sex life look like?
I think it's one where you feel like your needs are being met and your partner's needs are being met and you have security and safety and you can explore your sexuality and those boundaries. It's individualized for everyone.
So what the word needs I always find very interesting
Yes.
there because there's when we talk about sex we talk about desire,
Yes.
right? But
Okay,
needs
your
are
desires are being met. But
well, hold on
okay.
there. Hold on there.
Yeah, okay. No, no, no. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah.
That might be
Yeah.
impossible.
I mean, I think there's definitely a difference between needs
Needs
and
met. No,
desires and
that's
like,
true.
needs can
Sometimes
be
they intersect.
yeah. Yeah.
I would say that are well, you can think about it in different veins too, but you sort of have like for women it's reproductive health. So if you wanted to have children, like that's sort of a realm of that, and for men too. And I would also say that there's intimacy, and in that intimacy, it could be physical intimacy. There's other aspects of it that you certainly would want to address. So, you'd want to feel like you're in a safe, secure, maybe loving, appreciative relationship, or maybe you have just different needs. But I know for me, those are sort of my categories, and that relates to physical intimacy. So I want to feel appreciated and loved, and I kind of like when you get oogly and handsy and I push you off all the time, but I'm like, oh, I still got it.
Still got it.
I still got it. But you also, it evolves. I think women go through a lot of changes because of, sort of our childbearing years, and we've got our cycle fluctuations every month, and then it's, menopause and all those crazy hormonal changes. I think also,
I mean, a
you're
woman is like 7 different women in a
yes,
single month,
yes, and
so
there's like postpartum and oh yeah, it's crazy. And so I think that a certain level of physical intimacy, depending on who you are, there's a huge spectrum. People have needs to feel like they're happy and healthy and secure, right? I mean, if I could not be celibate, I'll just put that out there. But, some people might be okay on that end of the spectrum. And then there are others who might have certain other levels of desire and interest. So as long as there's some mutual respect, it doesn't need to be mutual. That might be hard. It can't all be the same, but some mutual respect for, you know, meeting needs, and maybe you need to meet your own needs sometimes.
no comment. All right, last question.
I'm trying my best to keep this PC.
I know you're doing a good job. We're almost there. We're gonna land this plane. Um,
And not divulging all our secrets.
so how much of what you believed when you were younger was true and how much was
Oh.
garbage?
Well, I would say my exposure, if I'm being totally honest, my exposure, I did find the Playboys in my brother's room once. I had to clean it out, and I thought, yuck. And also, these women are beautiful. But I already saw that reality blasted at me every single day just because I was a young woman in the world. Or I should say, non-reality or expectation, non-real expectation for what women, who are sexually appealing look like. And then the scintillating like our movie that crossed my path. So I don't think I had a lot of
Skinamax.
Skinemax. No, I don't think we had Cinemax, but oh, I don't think we had Cinemax, but you have some things, whatever. Anyway, but the the outside of that, I want to say I wanted to explore. I had no idea. I feel like I was a little bit of a clean slate. I had parents who were still together and in a uh healthy functioning relationship. It's not like they were necessarily bold about like, oh, they weren't as open and communicative as we likely are with our kids. So but it wasn't like they would be off put if I had asked certain probing questions. Um, but it was a healthy household that I grew up in, so I knew what a healthy relationship looked like, and that was good. And I felt pretty secure with my first partner as far as the pace of things unfurling. And you're a hormonal teenager, and so you're willing to take some risks and explore, but it was within a safe and secure relationship, which I think was good. And then, it just again, it like slowly evolves from there. So I would hope that a lot of people have that opportunity. I know that they don't, and that can cause some trauma and some shame and some distrust, but I think it's possible. There's billions of people in the world. It's possible that hopefully everyone can have that at some point in their life. And, I think that's no, again, there weren't really any expectations except that I was hoping to find a partner who loved and appreciated me and that I could feel comfortable with. But I had no illusions, and I was not exposed to pornography as it exists today. So maybe that's also why I, had a little bit of a healthier expectation. I don't know. How about you? Was it different than that?
So much garbage.
So much
So
garbage?
much garbage.
What do you mean garbage?
I mean, most everything that I learned, quote unquote, learned,
Uh-huh.
like when I was a teenager, just garbage.
Oh. I would say friends chatted, but girls chatting about things are a little bit different too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it is so interesting. So, you take okay, we talk about the bases, but you talk about like the first time you kiss someone. And like, sure, maybe I kissed the back of my hand or something, but I went in cold turkey. I had seen people kiss on TV and, I'd certainly seen like, more sexualized, intimate kisses versus the peck on the cheek. And so you get a sense of what it might look like, but you've no idea the like visceral
yeah. How you're gonna
sensory
feel?
experience, how
Yeah.
you're going to feel and like the zing and all of that. And the first time I thought it was so disgusting. So disgusting. I was like, this is gross. And it was with someone I knew who was a boyfriend at the time, but we were in middle school and it was definitely like
See,
a,
my first kiss, like I felt compelled to like make the noise. It was like no,
like
like
that. Oh.
we like couldn't just like it couldn't just be like kiss. It would be like you had to like make the noise.
Oh, so it wasn't, I was talking about, tongue action.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean you got to like make
Oh my
you
God,
got
it's
to make
probably
the like kissy noise.
sloppy. I'm glad I
Yeah,
wasn't that
yeah.
first
Make the kissy
kiss.
noises. You're not making the kissy noises. Is it even happening?
No, I don't remember trying to make any noise. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. But you get to certain stages and like I had never seen, anything that was like second or third. Well, maybe, I don't know,
Well,
but
the other thing is the the quote unquote the bases
bases.
they change as you get older. Like when you're in like sixth grade, like third base is like, oh, we held hands and then we kissed.
Well, I'm talking about the real
And then
bases.
by the
The
time you
real
get to
bases.
college, it's like third base is anal.
What? I don't know about that baseball game, but yes, as you
You didn't hit a lot of triples, huh?
but, uh anyway, when you get into things that are a little more intimate, it's nice when it's with a partner you've been with because I could try it and be like, "Oh, is this working for you?" Like, it was
Yeah,
literally a
yeah.
conversation. You
Well,
can be
that's so
vulnerable and
important.
explore, and, like, clearly you're getting feedback from the
Yeah.
person by, not verbally, but their whole body
I I
changes,
think
right?
that's probably the most, like, kind of bullshit thing that guys feel, and the message that
Mhm.
boys and young men get is that, like, you don't like, if you're good and you're strong and you're masculine and, you've got a big penis and all this stuff, then, like, you don't have to, like, ask. You don't
No.
have to figure out if this is good, this is okay. You don't have to, like, communicate your own needs
Mhm.
and desires because it's your job to just, like, take care of them.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's the most kind of BS thing that
Mhm.
boys hear is that you don't need to, like, communicate and have that
Yeah.
level of intimacy, and I think that leads to a lot of disconnect
Yes.
and misunderstanding and hurt
Yes.
feelings, and especially when you couple that on top of the unrealistic expectations and also the pressure
Yes.
that porn puts on people
Yes.
to
Yes.
to, you know, think and look and act and perform in a certain way.
Yes.
I
Um,
think that's probably the most kind of, like, misleading thing that,
mhm.
I felt like when I got old enough to be like, "You know what? Nobody can tell me how to do this."
No.
Like, I'm exploring, living my own life, which, took a long time.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are probably people out there who talk at length more explicitly about this, like how to please your partner. These are the things to look for. This is
Yeah,
how you
that's gonna
should
be the
act.
next episode.
Yes. I
One
mean
weird trick to please your partner.
I mean that content definitely exists somewhere. That is not the purpose of this. But I would say go for it. Women can be mysterious. Have I faked it? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Especially when I was younger, just because you just don't know. You don't know. Also, study anatomy. That stuff's out there. Study anatomy, please. Do us all a favor, study anatomy. I was naturally interested in anatomy, so I think I had sort of an interpretation of things. But study your own anatomy, study your partner's anatomy. Maybe your own is the same as your partner. You're good, so you're just studying one handbook, but study anatomy. That
So
will
same-sex couples really have a leg up is what you're saying.
they do.
Yeah.
If you know yourself well, you might have to ask a few questions because not everyone's made exactly the same. But yes, you do have a leg up.
Alright. Well, this has been a good conversation. Tell
Interesting.
me what you're still chewing on.
I guess what I'm still chewing on is, well, I'm interested in really understanding the consequences of what the porn industry is doing, and I don't understand the scale of it. I know it's big, and I know there's lots of raunchy things out there, but I don't truly understand the scale of it. It's probably problematic. Uh, and just like all those people who create it. Wow. I don't think I could ever do anything like that. But that I think things are moving in the right direction as far as, you know, maybe just people being more willing to discuss this topic universally,
I think there is
perhaps.
something to be said for, you know, there's more, and again, I'm a little wary of, like, the quote unquote sex positive
Hmm.
um mindset, just because I think there is a fine line between, like, you know,
Tasteful and respectful.
yeah, being
Hmm.
being being open-minded and exploring personal freedoms,
Hmm.
but, maybe tipping into more indulgent and,
Yeah.
exploitative things. But
Yes. Well, and
um
that's it. It's such
I don't
a
know where that line is, so
it
I'm not gonna be the one to judge.
If you think about mammals, right? Like mammals in the wild, just mount the woman, drop your seed, boom, we got a baby on the way. But we're so socialized. I think that our relationships and how a lot of people, I think, choose monogamy despite what we've been, sort of socialized in our culture to do. I think a lot of people would choose monogamy anyway, just because of the security and how long it takes to raise children and things like that. But it is very unique to us as a species about how it can be taboo to talk about sex and that it is a behind closed doors thing. I
Well, I
can't
think
even imagine it
it's
not
our
being.
species, but it's also our country because I think
Mhm.
Europe tends to be a lot more open
Mhm.
than this, and it's which is interesting because most of us are well, I shouldn't even say most of us any. Well, I guess it's kind of true. I don't know. It's hard to even say, right? Um, so much of the American experiment, and really not just the United States, but all of North America and South America,
Mhm.
is so deeply intertwined with European culture
Mhm.
exported here. So it's
Mhm.
just interesting that in the US, we tend to be a little more buttoned up than
Mhm.
in Europe.
Yeah, and it could be, well, no, because, Roman Catholics, that was European. Anyway, I'm just thinking about some of the religious
Yeah.
elements. So, yeah,
Tell me what's relatively ordinary.
but you gotta have sex.
Gotta have sex. Yeah. Yep.
No, you don't.
Literally, our species depends
I
on it.
know. I mean, it does. So,
And
not for everyone, but
And
for
one
most.
out of 3 people in the United States is underbabied, according to
Oh,
Dr. Oz.
oh, I forgot
That
about
fucking
that.
dipshit.
Yeah, I told our kids that, and they're like, "What does that even mean?"
America's favorite doctor TV clown.
Oh my gosh, I could do a better job.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, well, I'm gonna stay under babied, whatever the
Yeah,
hell that means. We're good
yeah,
with 2.
yeah, we're that ship has
Yep.
happily left the port.
Yep. Yep.
Yep,
So, they're great, but no mas.
yep.
Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
Alright, good talk.
Yeah, that was fun.
Glad we finally had the talk.
Yes. Good talk.